It's a pleasure to have Lawrence Jones on the program. He does a great job in his new slot on Fox and Friends. You've done a tremendous job on Capitol Hill. I'm very proud of you and Hillary. I mean, you got young reporters here who go right into the thick of it, and they're not afraid, politely, but persistently, to ask really, really important questions if you're a patriot. And you know, there are some journalists who are patriots, not enough. Lawrence Jones is one of them. He's written a fantastic new book. I got an early copy of this, Speaking the Truth About the War on Masculinity. American Man is the name of the book. American Man by Lawrence Jones. Lawrence, how are you, my friend?
How you doing, big guy? It's an honor to be on the show, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of the book as well.
Well, it's my great honor. You know, these days it's amazing. It takes some guts to write in defense of masculinity, doesn't it?
You know, it's sad because it used to be that, you know, the standard, the norm, but apparently it's become quite controversial to talk about this openly.
And you felt the need to write this? Why?
Well, I saw what was happening in society, and also I was turning 30 as I was writing the book, and so I was reflecting on my life and the relationship with my father. My mom got pregnant with me at 16. My dad immediately married my mother, and they just celebrated 30 years of marriage. And so me and my dad had a tumultuous relationship because he was so hard on me. He was very tough and firm. And as I've grown older, there's a level of appreciation that I've gained for that, because I've seen, with all due respect, this new generation of young men be so soft and weak. Mm-hmm. And I've seen the failure of society and men not taking their place. And, you know, from a biblical worldview, if things are going wrong with society, then men obviously have not taken their place in society, because God entrusts us to be the shepherds of our families as we follow him. And the first set of structure is a family before you get government. So with everything going so wrong, I kind of wanted to lay out some principles, talk to some men that I respected, because I want women to be appreciated, but I want them to have a strong man. So I wanted this to be the ideal man for them as their husband, as their son. But I also wanted to defend the principles of manhood as well.
Mm-hmm. And you have a chapter in your book, chapter 10 in particular, mm-hmm. Man as provider. You kind of touched on it. Explain what you mean, because, you know, there's a lot of soft, not just men, but some odd people out there that think there's something wrong with this.
Yeah, you know, I feel like God wants us to do this. This is what he commands us to do, is to take care of our families, and that means financially. And it just seems like in society, there's this modern-day man that is the stay-at-home dad, or the stay-at-home man, and wife goes out there and gets the bacon and brings it home. And that's just not the way it's supposed to be. And it creates disorder, and it creates chaos. And you know, it's totally fine if women want to work and help the household. I'm not bashing that. Right. But, it is our job to provide for our families and make sure that they have everything that they need. If the wife wants to do that as a supplement, more power to her. But as a society, I feel like we're getting away from that. Men, when they take their girlfriends or they're dating someone, they don't want to pick up the tab. That was required. My mom and dad told me that on day one. If you ask a woman out on a date, you go shake the father's hand and you make sure that you take care of everything, because that is your duty. If you're going to take her away from her father, then you better damn sure be able to provide for her.
And that's the thing. This book is basically an effort to reintroduce traditional families back to society. In traditional families, you need a father. You need a father who understands that his role isn't just to go along or play along, that his role is to be a man, a manly man. His role is, as you say in the book, to be fit, to be a provider, to know what's going on around them. That's what fathers are. That's what fathers used to be. And yet, as you point out, this is controversial now. And that's why you decided to write this book. Now, let me ask you a question in your own life.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good stuff in this book, and we're touching on just the very tip of it here. In your life, you've seen certain men who are men's men and so forth and that sort of thing. And you are that kind of man. You're a young man. And people want to know more and more about you. For instance, you have a girlfriend? You want to have a girlfriend?
Not right now.
Okay.
I do. Well, I want a wife, first of all. I want a wife. I'm dating. I'm dating with intention, right? The days of dating just to have a fling, that's over. I'm dating with intention for the wife to be. And so if someone is not marriage material, then I'm not going to date them because that's wasting time.
That's smart. That's smart. The book is American Man. American Man. Every man ought to read this book. And by the way, others too, because it's not just... When he describes an American man, he's describing a family, really. But The American Man's Role by Lawrence Jones, it's really a great book. And it's endorsed by Hannity and me and Dana Perino and so many others. Right, back to your book, American Man, Lawrence Jones. This is a full-throated defense of manhood. And in that, a full-throated defense of the nuclear family. My question to you is manhood, and you can read about all this in the book, and he has fascinating tales about his family, his colleagues at Fox, and others. I mean, it's really a great book. It was an honor to get an early copy and read it and endorse it. And I just wish I could do it justice here, but I encourage you to get it. Is manhood instinctive, Lawrence Jones, or is it learned, or is it both?
Well, it's a little bit of both. There are certain things that men have that are inherent that God placed in us. But then there's a phase where your father, your grandfather, other men that surround you are there to help shape and mold you into that man. So there's a little bit of both. Like, for example, no one ever had to teach me to defend my mom and sister.
We're losing you a little bit. If you're on the cell, just kind of turn a little bit. There you go.
Some of the things are instinctual. No one ever had to teach me to defend my mom and sister, right? That was instinctual. It was placed in me. Just like the nurturing aspect of my mother and sister, God placed that in them. But as the other things in my life were to show me, just because of a lack of knowledge, how to carry myself, my father and mother taught me to do that type of stuff. What to do, how to open up a door. My mother was notorious for, we'll go to a restaurant or something, or just, go shopping or something, and she would just stand in front of the door. And she would just look like, are you going to get that? Because that was required in our household. I talk a lot about manhood, but I also talk about what Christ requires us to do for women. We love our wives like Christ loved the church, which is the most sacred type of love. So this is not a book that bashes women. This is appreciation of womanhood, but it also is a challenge for men to take their place in society.
That's a very important point. You're not opposed to strong, independent women. What you're defending, again, is the distinction between men and women, parenthood, and a nuclear family. And what I really like about your book is that it is finally a pushback on what happened in the 60s and 70s with all these other radical left-wing movements that imposed sort of their own ideology, projected it onto men and onto women. And I think to some extent, Lawrence Jones, this has led to this imposed confusion about gender, about men and women's sports and so forth and so on. Is this what happens when we don't accept what God has given us?
Well, Mark, there's there's some honesty in the book as well when it comes to me, because I'm much more of a libertarian. Mm-hmm. And I think when I was interviewing you and Pete Hegseth and Sean Hannity, there was this confession of, I have to be honest in the book as well, because I was learning so much as well. And I said, am I responsible for part of this? For saying, if they just want to do that, then so be it. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone. But the problem with the left, as always, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And, Mark, I don't think it's confusion at all. I think they know exactly what they're doing. Mm-hmm. The problem is they're so secular, they have no principles anymore. And with no principles, you get utter chaos, which is what we're seeing in our society. So it wasn't enough for us to say adults that are consenting adults can do whatever they want with their life and live the way they want. Now they have to escalate it and say the children. And if the parents want to intervene and say, no, I feed them, I put a roof over their head, then I'm going to guide them, I'm going to raise them, and when they get out of my house, they can do whatever they want with their life. And they say, no. They're our children now. And we're going to do gender reassignment surgery and not even let the parents know. And if the parents do decide to get involved, then that's child abuse. We have lost ourselves. And I think some of us that have this libertarian approach ceded on some issues and said, let's give them some room. Well, you can never give them room. You have to have red lines with them.
Yeah, and honestly, you're emphasizing your libertarianism, then you know who Mises is, Australian economist, in the Austrian School of Economics. And he said, when he was living, he wrote that Americans talk more like Marxists than they do like free people. And that's same with this family situation. It's sort of the destruction of the social construct of the family. And I think, sort of from your libertarian point of view and also your family point of view, this is what you see. And I want people to understand, as I try and, with Lawrence, portray what's in the book. Fascinating interviews. Yes, he did interview me. He worked very hard on this book. He wrote this book. He talks about his colleagues. He talks about people who influenced his life. Because when I was watching Fox, all of a sudden there was Lawrence Jones. I think you started with Hannity's show, no?
So this is
I lost you. Turn again.
And he did put me on the map. He gets a lot of credit for that.
Oh, Mr. Producer, we have a bad connection. Let's call him right back. And in the meantime, let's do a silent prayer. I know we're not. I have a friend of mine, really a friend of mine, who probably was the first guy who brought me into radio. I don't know what happened to him. Great guy. He used to do a 1-minute silent prayer on radio. I loved him. I don't want to embarrass him. But that's like the death of radio because of your show. Because ratings, they want to hear people talking or whatever. So if you take a minute in silent prayer, even 30 seconds in silent prayer, that's registered as no audience whatsoever. All right, Lawrence, we're back. Go for it, baby. Hannity, you and others?
Yeah. So Hannity really put me on the map. I became his correspondent. And he said, look, I denied the job offer that he gave me at first. And he goes, just be you. He goes, if you stick with me and you do this for 2 years, you'll have your own show, which happened. And from there, the boss gave me this incredible opportunity to be a co-host on Fox and Friends now.
Mm-hmm. What's it like sitting there with 3 other people? How do you know when to speak and who gets to say what?
Oh, you're so good at this, Mark.
Plus, you're the junior guy on that sofa.
It's the hardest show on the network, in my opinion, because it's 3 hours and there's so much moving and there's highs and lows. There's entertainment, there's hard news, there's cooking segments. As the young one, you have to have a lot of humility, and everyone thinks that they have the most solid point, and you got to know when it's the appropriate time to make your point or to compliment your colleague. And the great thing is, I've been doing this show since I was 20 years old, and I'm 30. So I've grown up with all these people. And you just got to know. It feels right. It has to feel right.
Mm-hmm. I have a simple rule. Maybe I shouldn't mention it to you, but I have a simple rule. If you want me on your show, then shut up for 5 or 6 minutes so I can say something and don't interrupt me. Otherwise, why bother? This has nothing to do with you. I say the generic you. Why have me on? I've got my own shows. I've got radio, which is bigger than all my Fox shows put together. If you want me on because you want me to say something, let me say it. Is that so bad?
Only the great one can make that demand. Only the great one can get 6 minutes of uninterrupted time on national TV.
True, I know.
And sometimes it's so
I go
good
longer.
that you may get to blow a commercial, which is really huge in TV because that's
What's
how
that
we
all
pay the
about?
bills.
Let me just say something. It is an honor to know you. I really do enjoy you on Fox and Friends. You have to get up like at 10 at night the day before in order to get there. It's very, very difficult. And you have a terrific personality, charisma, comes across, smart as hell, a real gentleman, and I want the audience to know this is a fantastic book. And he's right. It doesn't matter what your gender is and so forth and so on, but it really speaks bluntly, politely, rationally about what's happened to manhood and what we men and what women in support of men need to do in order to get our masculinity back. Because society is kind of organized now against masculinity. That's what you're hammered with day in and day out. And Lawrence does it through interviews. He does it through his own life's experience. He does it through what his colleagues and he have experienced and so forth. I just want you to know it is a delightful book. American Man. You can get it at Amazon.com right now. Mr. Producer, make sure we put it on our social sites. We'll make it very easy for you just to link up there when some of you are on there harassing me. So, Lawrence Jones, God bless you, my friend. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, great one. I appreciate it so much.
All right, you take care of yourself.